Hi, welcome back to another episode. As I've said earlier, it's your girl Majanae, aka Mama Maj, and you are listening to MamMaJism. This is season 2, episode 23 of Podsmas. So we are on day 6, principle 6 of Kwanzaa, which is Kuumba. And before I get into that, for starters, I want to say I am working on talking a little slower because I already knew this, that I talk fast naturally, and when I'm trying to translate my, or not translate my videos, but turn my videos into like closed captions, sometimes I talk so fast that like the words just like fly by on the screen. And I mean, I'm over here trying to make it easier for everyone to understand what I'm saying, and I'm not even speaking in a way that people can understand me. So, working on talking slower, taking things slowly. So now that we got that housekeeping thing out of the way, I'll say just want to remind you all as well that this week's holiday challenge is to reflect. I mean, we're in literally, it is New Year's Eve. So happy New Year's Eve for starters. We're in a very reflective time, I assume, I would hope. So the holiday challenge for this week was to look back at each month and at least try and find one good moment, memory, lesson, whatever floats your boat that really, stood out to you this year for each month. So hopefully that's something that you can partake in. If not, I'm sorry. I feel like maybe there's one thing, at least maybe how about one thing for every 6 months? So like just 2 things, we're keeping it real chill over here. It doesn't have to be for every single month if you can't think of things, because it truly has been a tough year for many people, and tougher for some more so than others. So I understand, I get it completely. So, no pressure, but also try, okay. All right, now on to the actual episode. This is why I don't like talking slow, because now I feel like I've wasted so much time saying things. Why say many word when few word do trick? If you know where that's from, you're cool. Okay, moving on. So, as I said, we are on principle 6, day 6. I last year I said Kuumba, but there's 2 U's, so I'm going to assume that it's Kuumba. Vowels. So, which means creativity, right? So, to quote the official Kwanzaa website, it is to always do as much as we can in the way we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. So what does that mean? It means, tapping into the creative sides that we all have in order to continue to help the community thrive by participating. And, if you haven't caught on yet, for Kwanzaa, all of the principles, they feed into each other. So we all have creativity inside us. It just might show up in different ways. So people who make art, obviously, their creative side shows with the art that they make. I know for the longest time, I thought that I was probably the least creative person on the planet, but here I am with a podcast. You know what I mean? Like, that takes creativity as well, coming up with content, things to talk about, ways to bring up topics, storytelling in itself, which is what I use for my podcast, telling stories from my life. That is a form of creativity, And so I say this to say, when you hear the word creativity, it might seem daunting or unrealistic for you if you're like a left brain type of person, very like analytical and logical. I get you. But it could really be applied in so many different ways. Like there is not one way to be creative. You know what I mean? There's a plethora of ways for you to show your creative side. You just have to tap into the things that you are passionate about and go from there. Like, I would always suggest, like, think of the things that inspire you and how you can incorporate that into your life to help allow you to bring out more of a creative side in yourself. Like for me, for example, I I'm not necessarily like a concepts type of person. I can't right off the top of my head come up with 5 business plans on things that are needed in the community. I know that that's not my strong suit. That's okay. I have more of a helper in me. Like you tell me what to do and I will do it, probably 10 times better than you thought that I could do it, because I love to assist people. I love to help. And all you got to do is kind of give me like a broad idea of what you want. And then from there, I'll take it a step further, put my own little twang on it. You know what I'm saying? Add my creativity into it. But I just can't come up with that first step of like actually coming up with something. You know what I mean? I can add on to things, but I can't create from like nothing. And that's okay, because I know my strong suit and that ain't it. And that is fine. So you have to kind of figure out what works for you and what ways do you come alive, your creative side comes out. Like y'all know, I like to dibble and dabble in sewing. I buy all this fabric and do nothing with it. It's okay, it's fine. It's not a waste of money. I'm gonna use it eventually. And then buying the guitar, that's music in itself. Oh my goodness, that is very on the creative side. But let me not get carried away in all of my little side projects that I kind of push to the side when it's convenient for me. You also want to start thinking about, when we're talking about this principle, what are some creative ways for you to connect with your ancestors and to the community? Because again, Kwanzaa as a whole in its entirety is about unifying the community. So what are some ways, when you think of ways that you can be creative, how can that then be applied to the community? I'll use myself as an example, of course. So like with this podcast, for example, I'm using my creativity, which is creating content in a podcast format, to kind of shed light on a holiday that doesn't seem to be celebrated as much as all the other major holidays, which is unfortunate, because this cultural holiday is meant for us. It's meant for us to, and then when you really start to learn more about the holiday and participate in Kwanzaa, you start to see that, wow, this is something that's just empowering, if anything. It's just kind of affirming who you are and like the strong roots that you come from. So when we're talking about creativity in ways that it can help the community and unifying us all, how are you, when you figure out what your creative spark is, or what are the things that you can do that are creative, how can you then apply it to help out the community? I use my podcast to talk about Kwanzaa and other topics that I feel like kind of get pushed under the rug, because maybe it might make somebody uncomfortable, or maybe because it's not the polite or proper thing to talk about. Well, I always like to say F you to societal standards. I like to challenge everything, because I feel like if we just go on with life saying yes, 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 to all these things that we grew up being told that this is the way that things are supposed to be without questioning it, how are we thinking for ourselves and creating the world that we want, So that's just how I operate, though. So once you figure out how you can be more creative and then apply that to your community, that's what I have for y'all today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. And share with me if you like. Oh, I haven't mentioned this for a while, but if any of you decide that you do want to call in, you still can. That option is always available to you if you want to share any of these principles that you have been practicing this week. I would love, 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 love to hear it, honestly, genuinely. And if you have, and share, at least for this episode's sake, share something creative that you're into, that you can help apply to the community. I would love to hear it. But again, that's all I have for y'all today. So I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you next year. I'll see you next year. It's been a fun run. And then with tomorrow's episode, we'll close out Podsmas. Bye. Thank you for listening. Please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and follow all the socials at MamMaJism. That's MamMaJism. If you decide you want to financially support me, On my accounts, you'll be able to find out how. Thanks in advance. Until we meet again, please be kind to one another. And from the bottom of my heart, I love you.